Hi everyone, welcome back to the Off the Bar podcast. I'm joined by Ben today, and in this video we are going to be discussing Real Madrid's comeback win for the title, Barcelona's future, Real Madrid's future, and many more things that are going on in La Liga today. So let's first start off with Real Madrid and how they kind of came back and won their first La Liga since 2017.
I believe so, yeah.
Honestly, I think it was an incredible feat by Zidane. It shows that this never give up attitude that they had. They didn't really start the season off too well. I mean, they were still in a Champions League spot, but they really didn't start off too well. I think it was already issues with some of their signings. Luka Jovic never really showed his form that he had at Frankfurt. Eden Hazard, had issues with his weight and had weight issues and injury problems that kind of plagued him throughout the season and became a big thing. So he really never kind of developed into that squad. They also had Eder Militao that really never played as well. I mean, the inclusion of Valverde has really...
it brought life into that midfield.
It really did, yeah. In that aging midfield, especially with Kroos and Modric kind of getting up in there into their 30s. And then Mendy, I think, doing a great job kind of filling that Marcelo role, that trying to be the heir to Marcelo. But I feel like at the beginning of the season, we saw Zidane go back to his old lineup that he used to win the 3 Champions Leagues in a row. Didn't really work out with him.
He was missing one key part, Ronaldo.
Yeah, well, that's true. But I think later on he started to figure out, start getting his steps, and he really, I think, I really haven't been followed Real Madrid as much, but Vinicius Rodrigo, I'm sure, kind of contributed to that attack.
And the main thing, if you want to talk about the attack, is definitely kind of the resurgence of Benzema.
Right. Honestly, he's had a fantastic season this year.
He scored 21 goals in the league. He seemingly, ever since restart, was just banging them in.
Right, and I think it was also the question of what they're going to use Bale for. Are they going to play Bale at all? How he's going to be included in that lineup, and how Zidane's going to use him. But I think later on we saw that Zidane really didn't care, and so he was on the bench or starting. He doesn't really care.
He was taking a nap on the bench.
Right. And so honestly, if you look at how he did it, it was pretty much just keep playing and just keep going at it. And Barca slipped up, and we're gonna get to Barca in a second. But Benzema honestly having somewhat of not a career resurgence, because he's had, I think for the past couple seasons, pretty good.
And besides, he also has to sit behind when he was with Ronaldo. He had to sit behind him,
right?
And Bale was really good at that time as well. So
right.
He was kind of that third wheel that no one really liked to talk about.
Right, and I think he really stepped up, because now he had competition at the striker role with Luka Jovic, because they just seem like out and out strikers. They guys that have to have the ball at their feet, that can hold up play and could also score. Jovic didn't really show that this season, and I think moving forward, how do you see Jovic being included into that Real Madrid lineup? Do you think they're going to sell him after this season? Do you think they cut their losses? Do you think we're going to give him one more go and then cut our losses? How do you think Real Madrid are going to play this?
Well, I think for you, Luka Jovic, he didn't have the best of seasons. He had an incredible season, I believe, at Frankfurt.
Right.
So I don't think they're gonna go full out. This guy's a bust yet, because if they would have done that already, Bale wouldn't have been on the team. You have a lot of players that probably wouldn't have been on the team.
Yeah.
For example, Eden Hazard could have been sold if you're gonna go by that kind of logic.
Right.
He hasn't had that really amazing season that a lot of people thought he would have. So I think they're gonna give him another go at it. Benzema still, he's 20. He's very old. He's getting up there at least in age, so they're going to have to look for other striker options. We've seen Luka Jovic be that kind of central guy, just the kind of go in and score goals. So I don't see him getting sold this year. No, I think if he has one or two more seasons. If not, they might just have to cut their losses.
Right, and I think moving forward, I think that midfield is going to start taking a little bit more shape. They still have a bit of deadwood, I think, to get rid of. I think eventually they're gonna either have to move on from Modric and Cruz, or
Cruz has stated that he's gonna retire early in his 30s, so I don't think.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I think maybe he's just waiting out till retirement because they sold Kovacic, who's having some of his best years at Chelsea. Like the past 2 seasons is doing really well at Chelsea. James Rodriguez has been an issue in terms of being consistent and being played consistently. So I'm not sure, but if you look at their midfield, Martin Odegaard has been
Especially out of
really
those, he
good
looks
for
really
Real
good.
Sociedad. Casemiro's like 28, I believe.
I mean, even looking forward, past
27,
that, you have
28,
Renier, who can play that attacking
Right,
midfielder
Renier.
position.
You have Rodrigo, Vinicius, Militao, like we mentioned earlier, could definitely fill in a Sergio Ramos because he's getting up there trying to partner up with him and Varane, or at least take over Nacho when the time comes, being that third string center back, that the rotational center back. Takefusa Kubo,
has shown
honestly at
incredible class.
Malaga, that he's been I think a really good talent, and one that definitely is for the future. It's going to be interesting on how Real Madrid's future is going to play out. I definitely feel like Jovic has the talent for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely believe Jovic has it still has the ability there. It's whether or not they believe in that. And honestly, I'm seeing reports of him going to Leicester, AC Milan, back to Germany. It's he's still young enough that this shouldn't bother him. That if he's 21. Yeah, it didn't work out at Real Madrid, but I think honestly, if he went back to Germany or Italy, or if he went to Leicester, somewhere, I think honestly he should stick it out. But if he can't, and Real Madrid and him just want to cut their losses, by all means, I think honestly Leicester could be a good place for him under Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, especially with already getting up in age and Nacho not really being that good of a replacement.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like, if he went to AC Milan,
he would have
competition with Leao,
Rebic as well. But Rebic, they played together at Frankfurt.
Right. But Rebic has been playing more as a left midfielder.
Right.
But and that's obviously the question mark of if Ibra's going back to AC Milan. But if I was Luka, I would try to stick it out. You're at one of the top clubs in the world, one of the top clubs in Spain. I think just stick it out. He definitely has the talent and the development, and still at 21, he is still young enough to not be considered a Real Madrid flop.
I think also when you're talking about Real Madrid's future, you have to talk about the main thing that's going to happen is development, because they have a good crop of guys that they've bought, and they've like Vinicius, like Rodrigo, like Renier, like Eder Militao, like even Luka Jovic. If they can develop these guys into world-class talents, they can get... Well, I'm not going to say they're going to sell them, but they can get kind of that team. They don't have to go out and get, okay, we're going to spend 100-something million on Eden Hazard. We're going to spend this much money on this player.
Right.
If they can go out and train these guys and develop these guys into talents... the sky's the limit for this team, I think.
Right. And I think, honestly, they have a good future. They sold Teo Hernandez, but Ferland Mendy looks like he could be that replacement, and definitely have Regulion. Llorente, really hasn't shown that promise that he had at Atletico. He hasn't showed that kind of potential that he had, but again, at 24, there's still plenty of time. Keylor Navas, so they're probably going to look for a backup goalkeeper. If not, they have Andre Lunin, who honestly,
he's impressed a little.
He's been somewhat impressive for them. Again, in their midfield, Ceballos is at loan at Arsenal, so
he's had a pretty good year.
Yeah, it's been difficult, I feel like.
Yeah, especially with the state of Arsenal.
Right, and moving to a new manager, it could be a little bit tough. Odrzola, again, is a young right back. He went to Bayern. Hopefully he could be somewhat of a Carvajal replacement that they're hoping for.
Yeah.
But then again, it's gonna they sold Hakimi because he doesn't want to be the backup to Carvajal because I believe Carvajal still have a few more years left in the tank.
He doesn't seem to be someone that's slowing down, and Hakimi, fair enough to him, he probably deserves to be starting for a team. I mean, he impressed an incredible amount at Dortmund.
Yeah. And again, I think if you just go down the line, Brahim Diaz also, if we talk about him real quick, he hasn't really shown it because he hasn't, again, gotten that playing time, but I think if he goes on loan, I definitely think he'll look. Asensio also is another talent that they could have. I think he could play the cam or left mid, or left winger or right winger. Yeah. So that's definitely somewhere that they could fit him into, and definitely showing his talent. I think they're probably going to look to get rid of Vasquez, maybe Diaz as well, that they signed from Olympic, from Lyon. Yeah, it does. Real Madrid does look like they have a promising future, and they definitely, I feel, they have a good tie coming up with City, so it's going to be a challenge for them to see how they do. I honestly, seeing City's form in the FA Cup and their defensive woes that they've had, I could see Real Madrid kind of getting out of the round 16 here.
Yeah.
But let's move on to Barcelona, who obviously choked.
So Barcelona going into the restart, I believe was a game like 3 points ahead, and they somehow choked and fell, I believe, 4 points behind at the end of the year. So there is kind of a lot of talk about what Barcelona is doing and how it's not really working. And as a lot of people have said before, their transfer strategy ever since, even before Neymar left, was to throw money at the problem. Yeah. And look, Real Madrid's done this before. Other teams have done this before. It's not something that's it's not something that's new that Barca's doing.
Yeah.
But if you look at their signings, I mean, let's be real here. Antoine Griezmann never got a good shot on the team. You have like other players like Ousmane Dembele, who's been plagued with injury and just hasn't been really connecting and playing well. You have like Paco Alcacer, who didn't play well. Andrew Gomez didn't play well for them. You have all these signings, and really, if you look at it, they only made 2 or 3 good signings.
Right.
I mean, Frankie de Jong's still young enough to... He played well, but Frankie de Jong's still young enough to be that world-class midfielder.
Yeah, definitely lead a midfield. I still have hopes for Lenglet. Lenglet seems like he's been a very solid defender for them.
Yeah, I mean, he's been their best defender. I mean, Umtiti has kind of fallen off a cliff, so he's been their best defender.
Firpo hasn't really shown that promise that he showed at Real Betis.
I mean, then again, he's still young, and they have Jordi
Alba, who's still putting up at a good level. Arthur, that they just sold to... Juventus for Pjanic, which I don't understand, but I think honestly it's also I think it's the transfer policy of throwing a quick fix instead of playing out the long term. I think that's why we also see guys like Ricky Puig not really play as well. I mean, we've seen, I think Ansu Fati got in because they needed someone to step up, and he just happened to. In terms of their strikers, they Griezmann, but he really plays as a center forward.
Yeah, and that's the problem. They bought him for a left wing position.
Yeah, and he's been kind of played out of position. Luis Suarez is obviously 33 and getting up there. Braithwaite is obviously a short fixed signing that I'm sure they would want to move on in the summer window coming up, or like fall window.
Yeah.
If you look at the midfield, Rakitic, Vidal,
they're aging, and that's the problem.
Busquets, I think Semedo and Semedo at least is being linked with moves away.
Yeah.
Sergio Roberto really hasn't shown good form in my opinion. Hasn't worked out with Toribio. I think he's at loan at Schalke right now. Titi is constantly injured, so there's definitely work needed to be there. So, yeah, I just feel like it's going to be difficult to see. I mean, Ter Stegen's still pretty much their number one goalkeeper.
I mean, he's played well.
Right. I think it's PK is getting out there in age. I think, honestly, they need, instead of throwing money at players, just throwing at short-term players, I think, honestly, they got to look at their squad and say, okay, we need to start looking towards the future, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what Real Madrid started to do, especially with some of their signings like Renier, Rodrigo, Vinicius, definitely Kubo, Militao,
Luka Jovic,
right,
they're still young.
Mendy, and definitely having a guy like Regulion and Odriozola and Asensio, like they look prime for a future, without guys like Bale and Benzema and Kroos and Modric and even Casemiro maybe. But if you look at Barca's roster, I mean, the only one for the future I could really see is Ricky Puig, De Jong,
Fati,
Firpo. If they decide to keep Toribio or Lenglet.
The thing is, Lenglet's been their best defender.
Yeah.
Toribio's out on loan, and you also have Firpo, who, I mean, he played decent. He wasn't, right, but he's also still young. The problem with Barcelona is that their transfer policy, and we've said that, and we touched on this. The transfer policy is the quick
fix. It's just throw money. It's just throw money
and
at any player.
And it seems to be sort of the appeasement to Messi, because Messi is, and I'm never gonna say he's declining because he got 20 goals and 20 assists. Of course, the guy's not declining, but he is old. He's getting old. He's getting up there. He's
33. I mean, if I get it, it's maybe, hey, let's win with Messi right now.
Yeah.
Like, it's a right now type of win. I mean, we see it in other sports as well. Like, I'm just going to throw an example. LeBron on the Lakers, they said, okay, let's win right now. So they got Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
So I can understand that. But I think if you look at Real Madrid, yes, they're playing for the now, but they also have
that
each
kind
position,
of backup for the future.
They have the backup for the future. Yes, do they still need replacing in some positions? Of course, because, players are going to get up in age and, it's going to be a little bit difficult to replace. And yes, are there still going to be galactical signings? Are there still going to be big signings by Barca? Yes. However, they got to look to the future, in my opinion. And honestly, for them, it's not really, look at the roster, yeah, but La Masia hasn't really produced anything too great.
Yeah.
Or if they have, you look at guys that, doing well outside of La Masia, like a Dani Olmo, or
even Takefusa Kubo, who rejected Barcelona to go to Real Madrid.
Well, go to Japan and then go to Real Madrid, right. You look at Dani Olmo for Leipzig right now, he was killing it in Croatia, and some of the and he's done well. If you look at Grimaldo at Benfica, he's also been one of those left backs that's been really highly touted by many big clubs, and honestly has showed his class at Benfica. And there's other examples out there that from players such as Onana to Icardi. There's always players that leak out of La Masia that they're not able to hold on, and they turn out to be quality players.
Yeah.
Adama Traore is another one that's been one of those class players, or not class, but has showed promise.
Yeah.
Especially this season. I feel like Barcelona's issue is going to be always try to be play for now until Messi retires, or Messi leaves.
Which Messi said before, he doesn't plan on staying at Barcelona until he retires.
Well, he there's been multiple points. He either wants to. I think it's always been like however Messi feels that day. It's okay. I want to stay at Barcelona. I want to end my career at Barcelona. It's like, okay, well, you know what? Hey, Man City's offering money. Inter's offering money. Miami's offering me a shit ton of money. Let's just go out. Let me. You know what? There's better opportunities for me. I want to retire. I want to still play some football. So for sure, the only really big promise in this whole team has been Frankie de Jong. who's honestly showed his class.
And even then, he's not from La Masia. They had to buy him.
Right. But you guys look at Elena and the other Busquets and Ricky Puig. Like, these guys came from La Masia. I mean, I know they have Cucurella on loan. And, they have players on loan that that they could obviously...
They can obviously use, yeah.
Yeah, they can obviously use. However, it's going to be more difficult for... it's definitely going to be more difficult. I mean, for them to try to bounce back from this. They have the talent, and I definitely believe they have the roster. I think they sold Malcolm too early, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I definitely believe he could have fit in that roster. Dennis Suarez as well. I mean, I know he didn't really work out. It's also the big thing how they're gonna deal with Coutinho when he comes back.
Another one of those that they just threw money at.
Right. Another one for the future is Emerson at Real Betis on loan. He's a right back. He's showing promise. They sold Carlos Perez to Roma, who also showed a bit of promise, but it is what it is. Juan Miranda shows a bit of promise, and and Cucurella as well. They show promise. So they have players that show promise. However, Barca's policy is always I feel like is going to be until Messi leaves or retires is going to be
play for the now.
Play for the now, so that way
Yeah,
they could still win. However, I just felt like this season they've been relying on Messi to be Messi, to be that superhero that they need, and I don't think it's worked out. But they kind of choked with this. They kind of choked with for the title.
Yeah, and look, they're not gonna have Suarez at the same production as he was with MSN.
No, because he's obviously been riddled with injuries also, and he's getting up there.
Yeah, and I think you also have the fact that they haven't found an apt replacement for Neymar, which was a huge part of that attack.
Right.
They haven't found kind of a lot of that midfield power that they had with people like Xavi and Iniesta retiring. They haven't found that kind of creativity in the midfield.
And Rakitic getting old, yeah.
Yeah. So it's just seemingly they're trying to find a solution to make sure that we win now. And Artur could have worked because he had a good season.
I honestly believe a midfield of Artur and De Jong could have really worked out for the future. But I guess it's always play for the now and play for whatever manager works.
Yeah.
So we're gonna have Barca. I feel like is a little bit screwed, in my opinion, for the time being, unless I think there has to be I think it comes from the top, and I think the people. I think they're looking at a presidential change.
Yeah.
I've read reports that they're looking at presidential changes and trying to change from the top, people from high offices. But yeah, congratulations to Real Madrid for winning. If any of you guys are Real Madrid fans, congratulations. Really quickly before we go, just couple pieces of news. Also in La Liga, Villarreal have confirmed that Santi Cazorla will leave after the last game of the season. Honestly, that man deserves an icon card.
I mean, there was a stat I remember at like the peak of Ozil's powers that when they played Cazorla, they played better. They played and they won more. And that
right.
Is a testament. He's 35 and he got 15 goals and 8 assists.
Right, and he had that, and he had surgery and he had issues with his feet and his ankles, and the doctor said it would be difficult for him to ever play again. And honestly, 15 goals and 6 assists this season, something to that extent. Yeah. For Villarreal, honestly shows why he's still class, and hopefully, he can land. If he doesn't retire, hopefully he'll land with another club. And other Villarreal news, they just signed a new boss. It's Arsenal's old boss. So hopefully...
Wait, they signed Unai Emery?
Yeah, they signed
Good evening.
Well, now he's going to say it in Spanish.
Buenas noches.
Exactly.
Well, he's Hispanic, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. So they just signed. Reports have been saying that they have signed him. That they signed him as their next coach. So maybe things will work out better.
He's really riding high on the fact that he was extremely good at Sevilla. But I think Sevilla also, they also had one of the best sporting directors, and he's now at Roma, and they found a bunch of great players at Roma.
Right, and Roma's honestly looking on the upswing as well, and another team that's also has some players for the now, but also in the future. So that's definitely a team to look in Italy. But yeah, no, and probably at PSG as well. But again, it's that oil money that having, some of the best players in the world play there because.
And also having it be that they're the best team in by
France.
far.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I think that kind of wraps up today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you're any Real Madrid fans, congratulations. Barca fans, we're sorry. Hopefully next season, things could be different for you guys. Real Madrid fans, hopefully things can stay the same. Or if any other friends in La Liga as well, Atletico Madrid or I don't know, Leganes,
Sevilla, Villarreal.
Yeah. So if you, hopefully, you guys will be able to do well. Let us know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What we were right, what we were wrong with. Any of your opinions, anything that you guys would like to debate with us with, and definitely like and subscribe, and follow us on Instagram and Twitter. The links will be in the description down below. Remember that we are trying to post daily, so be notified, turn on notifications, and if you enjoyed this content, again, subscribe and leave a like. That's pretty much it. Ben, anything else you want to
add? Stay safe out there.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Thank you all for watching.
All right.